Hi, I'm Pastor Tyler from Hoosick Valley Community Church. Growing at Home is a new series that we hope will deepen your understanding about the story of God. Grow your faith while we can't gather together, and give families tools to set God's good news deep in the hearts of the parents so they can teach it to their children. Each episode will wrestle with some hard questions that people have, especially in these trying times. And it will also include resource links for a YouTube video, a worship song, and other resources so that you can deepen your faith and grow at home. Why is everything so messed up? I think this is one of those questions that when you're first grader, second grader, who knows, junior or senior, comes to you and asks you, why can't I go to school? Why do I have to stay away from people? The only thing they're thinking is, whatever I knew about the world is now completely twisted. Why is it all messed up? And that's a really good question to ask, because some of the answers that people will give is, because God isn't real, or God doesn't care, or any number of answers that make it look as though God is powerless to handle the circumstances that we find ourselves in today. And ultimately, though, the world is messed up for just a couple of reasons. And the first one is that when God put Adam and Eve in the garden to worship and obey, to work and to watch, the people he put there rejected what God said and did their own thing. Adam and Eve, when faced with a choice in dealing with the serpent in Genesis chapter 3, opted for what they thought was good instead of what God said was good. In Genesis chapter 3, verses 4-6, it says, "No, you will not die," the serpent said to the woman. "In fact, God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened, you'll be like God, knowing good and evil." Then the woman saw that the tree was good for food, delightful to look at, and that it was desirable for obtaining wisdom. So she took some of its fruit and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. If you remember in the last video, we talked about how God gives generously. And one of the things that he does give is wisdom, it says in James. Well, here we see the very beginning when wisdom was right in the middle of what Adam and Eve wanted, rather than going to God for it, they decided that whatever God says, it might be good, but what I want, that's the really good thing. So one of the reasons why everything is so messed up is because each and every day, people, just like Adam and Eve, look out in the world and they say, what do I think is good? Rather than asking God, what is good? The second reason that everything is so messed up is that even in the midst of this issue in Genesis chapter 3 with the fall of humanity and sin, the Bible tells us that the promised seed would win, but with difficulty. Right? Let's look at that. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, God says, "I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel." Right? So God's speaking to the serpent here that had deceived Eve. And he's saying, hey, serpent, between your seed and the seed of the woman, right? There's going to be conflict. And ultimately, the seed of the woman will crush your head. But I want you to imagine this with me for a second, right? This isn't just like, ew, there's a spider, and smooshing it, okay? This is a snake, a serpent. And in a lot of places in the world, when a snake comes after you, it's bad news because their bite can kill. This isn't just like a little garter snake that I grew up playing with, right? This is a snake full of venom. So when the Son of Man, right, the seed of the woman here comes and crushes the serpent's head, it's as though in the same instant, the serpent is latched on to his heel. And yes, the seed crushes the serpent. But in the same instance, that bite is going to have real effects. The promised seed will overcome. Absolutely will. But even here in the very beginning of the story, we see a picture of an overcoming that happens with trials and difficulties and pain. And the third reason why we see that everything is so messed up, and this is just really simple, but it doesn't change anything, is that sin has consequences. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 17, God tells Adam his consequences for disobeying him. And says, because you listened to your wife's voice and ate from the tree about which I commanded you, do not eat from it. The ground is cursed because of you, and you will eat from it by means of painful labor all the days of your life. And sin has a lot more consequences than that, but all you have to do is see right in there is that when we choose something besides what God says is good, we're just continuing to pile up the consequences and the pain and the brokenness in the world around us. And God says, yes, it's broken. But that promised seed has overcome and will overcome. And if you trust me, the messiness and the brokenness in the world can be lifted in Jesus.